All right, coming up in today's podcast, we are back in the Electric City at probably the city's, one of its newest but also largest breweries. And there's two guys that we're going to interview today that have more time in the industry that they're actually now starting to teach it. That's coming up here in the next few seconds.
The Capital Brew Podcast with 20 North Dave and Nick Lee. What's brewing in the 518?
I'm going to take this opportunity right now to introduce Rich to the show. Rich from Frog Alley, who you've been communicating with. I'm also going to ask Rich, can you do me a huge favor and get closer up on
to
that
the mic?
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to help if you put it right in that channel, or if you want, you can take it right out of the stand and hold on to it.
Yeah, I don't want to fall. I didn't want it to fall. Slide in.
There we
I'll
go.
break stuff.
You should be good there. So yeah, we're at Frog Alley in Schenectady. Rich, I can't go to a brewery, including a couple weeks ago. What was it? 2 weeks ago, I was up in Tupper Lake, and I stopped by Racket River to find. I talked to Joe Hockey over there. I know you were just recently up in.
I think maybe that was part of a podcast that got cut.
It did,
or we didn't.
So
we're
we're gonna
recording
have
when we should have been. Yeah, I was right there. I was on the Racket River camping,
and then you didn't have the opportunity.
I totally dropped the ball going there, but we got up there, got our stuff in the water, paddled to a site. It's not like we're doing brew, a brew tour. We're out in the woods.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Had I been thinking on the way back, we should have probably popped in, for a minute. But
for sure,
we had to get back for the Steel Panther. No, was that the Steel Panther show? No,
you went to a Steel Panther show.
No, it wasn't. It was. It wasn't that day. I don't know because Pete came back with me. But for some reason, we had to get back, so it wasn't like a possibility to stop.
Well, if you ever go, you look out their back door. I talked to Joe Hockey up there, and he's one of the owners. He has a wall. We were talking to Drew a little bit earlier when we were doing our thing, and he talks about taking trips and planning them around breweries. I do the same. So does Joe Hockey. Joe goes everywhere, and he buys a growler wherever he goes, and he has a wall of just different growlers. And it's pretty cool, so we'll see some local ones up there.
And it's nice because he's never going to probably be able to use them again.
Yeah, true. So it goes right up on his wall, which I think is really neat. But one of the things, I had a conversation with Joe when we were out there, and he told me that he will hire people to work in his brewery and then send them to you for you to train them.
Yeah, we've had several people from the industry sign up and take the class, and have advanced because of that, and advanced their careers. And locally, we've got several students working in breweries all over the place here. We've had several people work outside the brewing industry, and they use this as a way to get in, and several people in the industry use it as a way to advance. And
he was also saying that there's people that just do nothing but home brewing.
You mean in terms of students?
Yeah, they don't have no intentions.
They have no intention of actually getting a job in the business.
They want to make better home brew.
Yeah, we've had students that are career nurses and different areas of expertise, and they just want to learn about beer.
For example, are there anybody that maybe that our listeners know that have taken basically your class that are currently brewing around here in the
For sure.
Oh, several.
Everybody.
Brian over at Mad Jack, he was in second class.
All right.
Adam Elbricht, who's up at Artisanal, I think he was in the first class. We have a few graduates here, Pete and Laura. Jeff and Erica, who took the program and then went on to start Unified Beer Works, are past students.
See, there you go. All right.
So,
I was over at Common Roots, right?
Common Roots
up in Glens Falls.
Not Common Grounds, the coffee shop.
Yeah, I talked to Mallory. She's actually the tap room manager. I don't even think she's one of the brewers, and I think she took the course.
She did, yep.
So, I mean, just people in the industry. And what's funny is because I said there's a couple of questions about beer. She's like, good, I'm the person you're going to want to talk to because I love to talk about beer. I was like, so do I. So, we can't go anywhere.
He's sort of like, what was the 49er coach that came up with the West Coast offense?
Oh, almost.
It was before George Seifert.
Before Steve Mariucci?
Yeah, definitely. But Steve Mariucci is a great example of a West Coast offense.
Yeah, he was a student.
The guy from the guy from the Chiefs, the guy from the Packers. My brain's not working real good. I can't think of their names right now.
I can't right now either.
But they were all basically from that 49er program. I want to say each one of them either was an assistant or
exactly, yeah.
And that's what Rich reminds me of. He's like, but if I could think of the guy's name, there's probably people out there listening that are screaming at their radio like, it was so and so, you fucking idiot.
Well, you look at Parcells. Parcells has got two coaches, if not more, that have how many coaches that were under Parcell have Super Bowl rings?
Oh, I don't know that, but because I don't think he had he had a particular style like the 49ers had, which was called
the West Coast,
ended up being called the West Coast style
little
offense.
run and gun and stuff like that.
You say, they ran it. The Packers ran it. Who else ran that style? I don't even know. The Rams, ran that.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
Well, Steve Mariucci was at the Rams too.
Steve Mariucci was, but he started with the Niners.
He did. Well, I think he's the one who brought the West.
I can't think of his name. It's not
either.
Joe Gibbs. It's not. Oh my God, I can see his face too.
And the owner is TJ, correct?
JT. JT started this whole project to redevelop the block here.
Yeah. Well, he just walked by us.
Yeah.
Oh,
you think there's a chance we get him to hop on the mic real quick?
Definitely.
Possibly, yeah.
When he comes through?
Yeah, flag him down when he comes through.
Yeah. Come on over. Say hello.
You gotta get this up to the hand.
This guy's busy.
How's it going?
How you been? Good to see you, pal. Great to see you, brother.
How you been?
Have you got
Not
two
too bad.
Do you have 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hop right in.
Throw these headphones on right here.
All right.
You gotta do the check.
Yeah. Can you give us? Oh, he's got a beer.
It's going to be an official.
I like beer. Beer.
Yeah. Where's the watermelon beer?
We'll get some.
Yeah, we were drinking that the last time we were
It's
here.
in the tank.
in the tank.
How'd you guys do for? This is a total personal question. How'd you do for the Labor Day weekend? Did you guys party a little bit?
We did. We had a couple of incidental acts. We had incidental music acts.
Yes,
Somebody
I
just
heard
showed up
that.
and started playing.
Yeah. They go along with their hot dogs and chips. So
Yeah, I had heard that. It's unfortunately I had a few people over. We couldn't all load onto my boat and go down there, so we were, there was some talk of going down there, but then I had probably 11, 12 people there, and that's not happening on that little 19-foot boat.
Well,
we got to
make
step
2
it up.
trips.
We got to step it up to a pontoon. Yeah, right. I don't even know if that boat would make 2 trips.
Yeah. No,
Starting to get old.
the house looks great though.
I was very lucky. Dude, without my parents, that would have been impossible. I'll tell you that right now. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I'm throwing that out there.
You do have a beautiful home.
That was
on a beautiful lake.
Very lucky. Very lucky. It was a good time.
Yeah.
A lot of people over. That's one of the advantages of being on the lake.
Yeah, we live probably a mile, maybe a mile and a half apart.
Maybe, yeah.
You're on the east side. I'm on the west side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really cool.
Awesome.
We're the East Siders.
Is there
West
a
Siders
gang round?
Yeah, it's a little competition.
We're the outsiders.
All right, so since we've got you on here for a few seconds, I'm sure you're extremely busy, but obviously you started Frog Alley. How did that come about?
This is the owner, JT. For all those, I don't know if you've mentioned that
guys,
to the listeners.
We have not yet. Let's introduce JT onto the show.
Hi. So Frog Alley was, it started as a real estate development play in downtown Schenectady. I'm an architect by trade. Mm-hmm. We design Walk Harbor, which I think everybody knows Struthers is down there. We had been courting them a little bit to come down here. They ended up going to the harbor, which is great for Schenectady.
Yeah.
Can't complain about that. We actually designed their space, so
awesome.
Very happy about that. But
beautiful place.
Thank you. And then in the process of all this, I met this guy, Rich Michaels, and I had some kind of dreams and concepts for a brewery that I really didn't know what I was doing, other than that I like beer, and this guy helped bring him to fruition. So yeah.
I have a question. I've wondered this. The name Frog Alley. It must come from one of the streets right here.
Well, this used to be Frog Alley right here.
Yeah. So
what is that? Give us a little detail, because I don't know. I'm curious.
It's kind of a really a cool story. So this whole lower downtown area along. So if you know the history a little bit, Erie Boulevard,
the Erie Canal,
was the Erie Canal.
Yep.
And then where the Schenectady Community College is, there was a harbor. In there called the Binnakill, which kind of made this triangular area with State Street. And for a while there was a little walking path along the Binnakill that was called Frog Alley. And then I think over time that the whole triangular area that was defined by the Erie Canal, State Street, and the Binnakill became known as Frog Alley. And I guess there was kids, they had a name, the Frog Alley Gang.
Really?
And then in 1903, the baseball team, the Schenectady's baseball team, was renamed the Schenectady Frog Alleys for 1 year.
Yeah.
The Blue Jays? They were the Blue Jays, right?
Eventually became the Blue Jays. Yep. I think they were the Mohawks for a while. They had a bunch of different names.
They were all arrested that year.
Yeah. They were arrested for playing baseball on Sundays, which was against the Blue laws.
Oh.
Okay.
So we kind of thought that that was a good tie with the brewery. We're you know.
I always wondered about
fans.
the name. I never known. I'd never known. I always wondered about it. I assumed one of the streets here was actually the Frog Alley, and I figured you picked up on it.
It was like a creek back here, right?
Yeah, well, so Mill Creek, the first grist mill, which is a nice tie to a brewery, was right here, and there's actually a historic sign mounted on the building.
I saw that. Yeah.
It was actually right out where the parking lot is. The grist mill was, and it was the only one in the Hudson Valley, so it was a pretty big deal back then. Mm-hmm. Then there was a lot of local breweries around Schenectady. So.
Awesome.
So pretty cool little story.
There was a street that ran through the building here called Mill Lane.
Wow.
So it's all goes back to that history.
Yeah.
And the brew house sits in the center of Mill Lane today.
That's pretty.
Yeah, actually, I'm sure you remember, but Dave, the Mill Lane came and went right through where that window right there is that actually it went right through there. So
yes, yep, I remember seeing it.
Yeah, we used to have.
There
what
was
was
a
it?
sign too. There was
you would go to where you remember the Blockhouse, talking about like stables in Schenectady. Yeah, you would. There's a little alley that would go right through and come right down this way. I remember that.
Yeah, so the Blockhouse we're just getting started on. We're about to renovate that whole building as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. So that we're working on concepts for that, but we're going to get BBL going on that guy too to get that restored. And
so what are we doing there?
Still a little bit up in the air. We've got some concepts going.
Nice.
We'd like to do a little speakeasy
style
in the lowest level.
Well, you've now got the equipment to.
Yeah, we've got the still going now.
Yeah.
So
we were going to get into that. That's an interesting thing that a lot of people probably don't realize, and I had no idea. But it's a really, really nice facility you got going there.
Now, when that's up and running, are you going to be able to sell the actual bottles here?
Yeah, so it's a 500-liter still, and Rich could tell you a lot more about it than I can.
Oh, he already, not on the podcast, but we'll get to it.
We've got a nice tour.
Yeah.
But the still is designed to process 500 gallons into it.
Yeah.
Depends on or 500 liters. So we can actually produce all kinds of spirits from there. So we can work on, like we talked before, gin, vodka, and whiskey. Whiskey's going to be a few years away. We got to put that in a barrel and let that do its thing.
So the other stuff like gin and vodka, you can basically bottle and sell, right out.
Once it's produced. It's going to be a few
So most
process.
clear...
Yeah.
Like liquors, you can pretty much have a quick turnaround with, correct?
Yeah, we think it's going to be at least 2 years or so to get the flavor we want in the barrels. And we'll be looking at some smaller barrels to start, probably some 15-gallon barrels. That gives us a lot of surface area, so we can get the flavor right from the wood pretty quickly that way.
Now, the brewing class that you're doing at the school, that's for beer specifically. Now, how do you?
So actually, our workforce program we split off a couple of years ago, and we actually added a distilling section to that.
Okay.
So the basics of brewing and distilling are all the same.
Okay.
You have to make a fermentable something.
Yep.
Whether it be beer wort or a wash that'll go to whiskey. So we have students that actually go through and do the whole brewing segment and then split off and they go spend time working with local distillers. We've been fortunate enough to have the guys from Albany Distilling work with our students there. Obviously, we can probably do that a little closer now. But several people go through that program as well. Sorry about that.
You're right.
That is awesome.
A little Flemmy?
Yeah, well, sorry about that.
It's probably the COVID.
How would you say you're now bringing that up? How are you guys dealing with that here?
It's tough, right? And I know it's tough for you too,
Absolutely.
Dave. We've been called the Gestapo. We're trying to do the right thing with the. We have a lot of room here, which is a benefit to us, and we try to spread people out. It's hurting us because we have to staff it more. We have more bouncers. We have more servers. We no longer serve from the bar. We do all table service. The whole food thing. You have to serve food now.
We had that discussion earlier.
Which we always serve food, but
to make people order it is really difficult.
We've had people come here from just having dinner at Daly's, and they walk over and they're like, I cannot eat another thing, and I'm like, well, you're going to have to
order something.
You actually made a very good point, and we talked about it with Drew. Drew said that I did it this past weekend, and one day I tried hitting up 4 breweries. Financially, it's pretty expensive.
When,
you gotta
buy. We try to do like the $2 hot dog. We're not making anything on it. It's just like
so you can be legal.
So we can satisfy the rules, and we're trying to do all that, and we understand that it's a real thing, and it's serious. But on the other hand, some of the things seem a little ridiculous.
We were very strict on masks. We're very strict on trying to keep people apart. No singing, no dancing, none of that stuff.
No.
It's just kind of crazy. It kind of goes against everything as far as entertainment.
Yeah. Everything. I mean, most bars are social. They're social gathering places, and that's essentially what they're trying to avoid. Right. I mean, it makes it a little difficult when your whole business plan is a social gathering place that you're not allowed to socially gather at.
Yeah.
When I can understand, like I said, I can understand a lot of the rules, the distancing, the masks, the making people eat thing. For me, is the hardest one.
To swallow?
You said. No, wait. Oh, I've been dying to use that button. I can't believe it. It's probably the only time we'll ever use it.
No, wait until we break in the jumping the shark.
Yeah, you had to bring it up already. We're not even halfway into the show, and you already got the jump in the shark comment. That's the only thing is my issue is, and I can understand why they even do somewhat why they make you eat food. They want to prevent people from bar hopping. But as I was telling these guys earlier, I've got friends and regular loyal customers that say simply just I don't want to eat.
Yeah.
So they don't even bother coming out.
Right.
That's really hurting our business because that's the majority of our business. Like selling food is nice. It gets people in the door, but you really want your regulars there. That's who really pays your bills. And most of the regulars aren't hanging out because most of the regulars usually hang out at the bar. They might take it to go once in a while, but for the most part, they just want to go see who's there, hang out, have a few drinks.
Yeah.
But really, that's the one thing they can't do.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I said, it's
I'm on my soapbox.
No. You're fine. I 100% agree with you. Like I said, not only going to is it expensive, but also filling. So you get to the point where you're like, yeah, I'll take this. I'll drink my beer. Can I get this to go?
I mean, don't we have a problem with obesity as it is in this country? I mean, Jesus.
I know I do.
I know, my God. I mean, it's bad enough as it is, and you're making me eat more.
Right.
And on top of it, apparently in New York, hot wings aren't a meal.
Yeah, well, no. That was just a misspeak or spoke. He obviously realized that that's not true.
Yes,
that's good because you got great wings. So.
Well,
yes.
You have the best wings.
One of the few saving graces
in the area.
Keeping us busy somewhat is that. Fortunately, being able to offer that was the other thing we were talking about. We had a good reputation for food, so it's keeping people coming in the door at the very least.
The challenge is that rules seem to change every week or sometimes every day or every hour. I'm not even sure. I don't really see the future of me. We're talking about the football season starting up.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
We're talking about we're not. I hate to say this, we're not going to end up getting the package. First of all, because they want to charge us their full price
for half occupancy,
and we're by law, by whatever decree, we can only have half capacity. So why do we want to pay? Because you pay based on your capacity.
Based on your capacity, right?
You know what I mean? I'm like, well, if I can only have half as many people, I should be, paying half as much. That, and I hate to say,
and it's expensive anyway.
It is
to really
start
expensive.
with.
It's not like getting it at your house.
No, it's significantly cheaper.
Money.
Significantly more expensive.
Yeah.
And on top of that, part of the thrill of Sunday football is packing everybody into
the place. Yeah,
catching all the games.
Standing room.
Like you say, you've been there. It's standing room only.
Yeah.
You can't get any more people in there.
When I was living in Schenectady, that was my
the governor would suffer. Probably have an aneurysm if he saw a regular Sunday in there.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. We can't do that. But that's this year. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not going to be forever.
So what about is it possible to run the local games and then get a projector out back or something?
Yeah, but if you should do any trying to run the football games without the package, that's not a good idea. Yeah, they come down. There's talk of getting a bunch of Amazon Fire Sticks, and breaking them and putting, they're not that expensive. If you think about it, you need 7 of them. 7 of them at $35 isn't that expensive.
No.
And you can pretty much run every game. But, obviously somebody would say something and it would get out. And then next thing you know, the NFL's breathing down our neck about, or whoever it is that would be DirecTV.
Or a rainy day. You're talking about having it outside.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Or snowing.
If the Sunday's not a nice day, that's now we're just bitching.
We don't want to do that.
Now let's get back on topic.
Yeah. So how did you meet Drew?
Yep.
Oh, so, Drew, I've known for a long time.
I'm sorry. How'd you meet Rich and Drew?
So, Rich. So I guess the story for me is.
Sorry, Rich.
as an architect and moving down to Schenectady, the big house was going to move to Schenectady.
Was it really?
So this was back in maybe 2004 or 2005. Is that about right, Rich?
Oh, probably
2000
or so.
Yeah, it might even be sooner.
I was
or earlier.
I was asked as an architect to come and look at the building that they were going into. They were having some issues. I think at the time it was Steve Waite was the owner of or one of the owners of the big house and the developer that wanted to bring him to Schenectady, which everybody's really excited about, to get a brewery in Schenectady. And I think this was even before really the Van Dyke and Mad Jack got going. So it was
definitely was.
It was an exciting time to get a brewery down here. And I met Drew. He was down there doing some of the labor to build the space. I know he was a great brewer, but he was actually down there doing some of the labor and the work. And I'd met him there. And then he was a brewer at eventually a brewer at Mad Jack. So I'd known him from there. And then Rich I met, as I said earlier, when I had this concept, I had pitched it to the community college about, hey, could we actually teach your program here? And I've got this kind of idea on how we could take...
do you do the classes here?
We have space in the back for classroom space, absolutely.
Yeah,
and we've had students come down here and do some lab work and things like that. And it's a little easier now that things are more finished, but that's the intent,
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we've got this incubator concept, like after they... graduate the programs from the school, they can actually lease a space from us, and the shipping containers, they each have 8 taps in them, and it's a way to kind of get their business plan together and a product line together so that they can go to market with it and maybe do their own brewery.
That's
was
awesome.
Kind of the thought process on that.
Yeah.
So.
Right. So like now, I'm going to ask JT because he'll know. 49er coach that came up with the West Coast offense.
Bill. It was actually Sam Weich. But
was it?
Bill Walsh.
Bill Walsh.
See, I'm a Bengal fan. They both came from the Bengal tree of Paul Brown. So.
Okay, that was the...
I know you're a Steeler
fan. The West Coast offense. All right.
I'm sitting there naming like Romeo Comel, or no, he was Parcells. Who was the... you got Steve Mariucci. You got a couple of coaches that were under Bill Walsh.
The big guy from the Packers.
Holmgren.
Mike Holmgren was one of them. The coach of the champions, Arrowhead Stadium, Chiefs.
Oh, Chiefs. Reed.
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid. Yep, another one.
And who's the other guy?
I think it's the other person I'm thinking of.
At least the Bill Walsh thing was driving me nuts. That's really all I needed.
You guys were hung up on that for about 10 minutes.
We were.
Yeah, Bill Walsh. Yeah, that was a great coaching tree from the Paul Brown era.
Okay, so it's Paul Brown. See, now for you readers, now I'm an ignorant fool. It's Paul Brown that came up with the West Coast offense. See, the readers, stop screaming Paul Brown at me.
Oh man. Stuff. Yeah, no, sports is always good. Because we're gonna get we've got Jeff and Gauze from ESPN Radio who are looking to get on the show. So anytime we can work sports in is perfectly fine by me.
All right, that's cool. Now I'm curious. This is probably a good question for having both of you here. Like, what did it really take to get into this whole situation? Like, if people are wondering, this is a very large operation, so
huge.
Your basic home brewer is probably not going to get into something of this scale. But what did it take really to put it together? To put all this together.
Completely crazy idea.
I'm kind of an ambassador for Schenectady. Like, I always want to see everyone in Schenectady do really well. I came up with this concept because it was this area, the western kind of gateway to Schenectady. It needed something big. It needed something that would ignite the area, and I always call it an engine. It needed an engine, and the brewery, I thought, would be that. And we worked really hard we assembled almost $10 million in grants. It's a $43 million project.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, for those of you who can't see this is quite impressive.
It chases me every day.
Yeah.
There's 74 apartments. We leased. This is amazing to me. Everybody told us we'd lease 8 apartments a month. We were leasing 8 apartments a week. The reception on the project has been amazing. We started leasing a month before COVID. we still lease strong right through COVID, and we have 6 apartments left. So
hurry up, all you people out there.
Down here, yeah.
6 left.
But we've got amazing tenants. We've got
trying to move back to Schenectady.
See?
Yeah, move back.
Exactly.
I'll show you some apartments.
There you go. See?
There's plenty of beer.
Perfect. And if you need beer, you know where to find it.
Right.
You guys close down at tonight, and somehow I find out you'll see me on the cameras running around.
But we have amazing tenants. We got the Janelle Group, which took 17,000. They're a local grown Schenectady company, tech company that's just knocking it out of the park. I'd love to show you the space. It's amazing. Their space is on the roof.
We'll definitely
they've got a rooftop patio.
For sure.
They've got 2 rooftop patios, and they've got this
And
amazing glass space. And they've got our beer right on tap up there.
Man, you definitely need to move.
I need to move.
Wow.
And then we've got...
I'm not going to buy a house, but yeah, I'll lease. Okay,
no, don't bother. We've got Annabelle's Pizzeria, which does a great job. And then,
how long have they been open now?
They've been open for about...
Probably 3 months.
3 months,
Yeah,
wow.
they opened right in the worst time during COVID, but
they were waiting for their health department certificate when things got shut down.
Right, exactly.
Boy.
So they kind of held off for a while, obviously,
yeah.
but and then we've got Bountiful Bread coming in, and they've got a full bakery, which a wholesale bakery to provide bread to the community, not just to bread and baked goods to the other local restaurants. And it's really about the project for me is about community, and that's what we've always thought as the architecture end of the business is like how do we help the community. So that's really
amazing the amount of work that's been done down here, not just in this building, but this whole area down here.
Yeah.
And for those who are listening, by the way, I want to take a step back. Bountiful Bread, yes, it's the same Bountiful Bread they've heard about in Sheridan Plaza over there.
Stuyvesant, yeah.
Stuyvesant.
Yep.
Well, did I say Sheridan?
No. Yep.
See Schenectady on the mind.
Sheridan Plaza over there off of Rosa.
Yeah, that doesn't even exist anymore.
It's a little rougher.
They still have the Chinese food restaurant and
I think they do. And that's it.
Liquor store.
What? No. What about Sheridan Pizza?
Is that still there?
I don't know. I haven't been over there in a long time. But we used to get Sheridan Pizza every once in a while.
Oh, I used to love Sheridan Pizza.
It was good.
There's Polly's Pizza over there in that corner. That's pretty good, too. Have you had Polly's?
Nope.
Got to go over to Polly's and order some of their wood-fired pizza over there. Phenomenal. But, yes, it's the same Bountiful Bread that's out in Albany.
Yes.
They've got great salads, great pastries. They do make the bread, a lot of great food. And anytime you go over there, you expect to wait if you're going to the one in Albany. And I highly expect the same thing when you come here to Schenectady. But it's worth the wait.
Yeah, they do a first-class job.
Yeah, phenomenal food.
Now I have a question, Rich. What got you into brewing?
Oh, I was making beer at home. I started out brewing in my apartment in college, about 3 years into a computer science degree, and decided I wanted to do something else. And then I showed up at a brewery that was opening with a 6-pack and a shirt and tie and said I want to make beer.
And now, was that where you basically learned it, was through that brewery?
I started out, it's actually now Brown's Brewery. It was Brown and Moran back in, they opened, 93? I think I approached them in 1992 in the fall.
Yep.
I showed up with a 6-pack and a shirt and tie, and they had a fruit beer on the menu, and they said, we don't have a recipe for a fruit beer. If you know how to make beer with cherries or raspberries or something.
The 6-pack you showed up with is what you made?
Yes.
Okay, because for a second there, I'm like, he showed up with a 6-pack of Budweiser? Like, all right, let's do this.
What better resume than a 6-pack of beer you made?
Right, yeah, no, exactly. Like, you got a resume? Sure do.
Boom.
Boom.
There's
6 of them.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So that beer became the...
Cherry Raz?
Yeah, they still make it today.
Yeah,
oh, wow. See, you should be proud. Wow.
It's a couple years ago.
It's like a disciple.
Have either one of you tried the Joanne? I think it's a New England style IPA that they make. It's really good.
We had some of their sours here last week.
Oh, wow, really?
They were excellent, yeah. They're doing some phenomenal stuff with sours.
And so if you go into Brown's and you order a Cherry Raz, they actually take, do
you get a cut?
I don't.
They drop the cherry right in there, so it's sitting there at the bottom. Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Probably use it for my gout. So you basically learned it on your own.
So I worked there when they first opened. Then I saved up enough money to go back to school. I went to the Siebel Institute in Chicago. They've been teaching brewing since the 1870s. I went to school with brewers from all over the world. Actually, Drew, our other partner, he's actually attended the same school as well.
It's like the Harvard of beer.
Is it really?
I don't know. I just made that up. It probably is.
I think it's the oldest brewing school in this half of the world, at least.
See, there you go.
Awesome. So you were right.
Or Oxford or whatever it is. I don't know.
You willed it to be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if let's say I was to take a trip to Chicago coming up here in the next couple of weeks, what should somebody check out in the Chicago area as far as breweries go?
I think Revolution Brewing Company. I'd definitely hit them
for sure.
Yep, it's definitely a must see. Goose Island has a nice pub out there as well.
They have their own pub out there?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
I thought Goose Island was a New York beer.
No, there's a Goose Island.
They started in Chicago.
Yeah.
They've since been acquired by a larger brewery, but they still have a nice pub there. They do some great stuff.
Well, Goose Island is in the Chicago area.
It is, yeah. Yep, it's an old name.
The actual island, yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's a name.
It's a local name out there as well.
Yep. I could be wrong, but isn't there is that the island, or there's an island out there too that is its own state? Like they're some of these like I don't know.
They've declared the independence from Illinois. Can't blame them, but no, I don't know.
I thought
maybe we should do that.
Yeah, we gotta dig a trench around Schenectady.
It would be like the episode of Family Guy, Pretoria.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
He found out that his property wasn't actually on the map.
Yeah.
At this point, anytime you go somewhere, there's a good local beer. You guys talking about Racket Lake before?
Yeah.
There's good beer everywhere.
Oh yeah, for sure.
20 years ago, you're hard pressed to find a local beer and even a good local beer. Now it's not a problem.
It's weird that now I don't have a lot of knowledge of the history of beer, but I'm guessing that when beer making became, I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is, but before like the big ones, mostly everybody probably got beer from their local
for sure
brewery.
Look at Albany.
The
Schaefer's
and Hedricks, wasn't that another one?
Yeah, I
think
so.
Everwick. I mean, there's
yeah.
And then obviously the big brewers took over, and I want to see, like we talked about this before, when I was like a teenager and a little older. Almost all beer was dominated by Budweiser or Coors or Miller, and that was it.
In the 1970s, we got down to probably the fewest breweries we've ever had.
And now it's almost like it was in, let's say, prior to the giant. Now you can go into almost any town and there'll be at least a brewery.
Oh, for sure.
Any decent sized city.
Actually, right now we've got more breweries in the U.S. than we've ever had before.
See, there you go.
Awesome
statistic.
Pre prohibition.
Yeah, in the 1800s, I think there were about 4,000 breweries. If I'm not mistaken.
Especially
and that number's 7,000 now.
Yeah, that's insane.
Well, back then it's difficult to move beer.
Refrigerated shipment and storage.
Ship and store. There wasn't the means.
How many breweries in the state of New York?
I think we're in the neighborhood of about 470, give or take.
The neighborhood, that's a pretty specific number.
By the way, Brian over at Mad Jack was 40 breweries off, I just want to say.
Was he? I mean, there's not going to be a quiz later on. It's not going to be on the final.
Well, he took the class a few years ago.
Yes, it's been a couple. A lot of breweries popped up since then, including this one probably.
Yeah.
All right, now we've obviously been all over the place, and we don't necessarily have to get into like trying every beer because we've had many of these beers.
Oh yeah, let's get to drinking some
beer.
But
I have some curiosity. Which beer should we start with?
Let's go with their number one selling beer.
That's exactly what I was going to say. We're going to put the question to you: what's your number one selling beer?
Ooh.
And can we have some?
We can get some. I know where we keep it. That's fine.
We might have had it already.
Probably our
True.
Mohawk number 5.
Okay.
We started out making a series of beers that were a rotating hop IPA.
Now, how do you get the name Mohawk?
Mohawk and hop.
More hops. More hops.
I thought it was like Mohawk.
Me too.
Yeah,
right?
There's a little bit of that in there too. It's evolved a little bit. But we started making a series of beers, and we had different numbers, and I think we got up to 14 different variations. Number 5 was our most popular.
Awesome. So it's just called number 5 because it was like the fifth.
It was the fifth in the series.
Yeah, you got like 5, 6, 7, right?
No,
I think we got to 13 or 14, if I recall. That doesn't mean you won't see 15. There's more stuff.
What basically is the beer? It's obviously an IPA.
Yep.
But tell us a little bit.
It's an unfiltered New England style IPA.
Okay.
We use a fair amount of wheat in it and oat malt and flaked oats.
What kind of hops?
Mosaic. Yep, people go crazy
for the Mosaic and Galaxy and
we've done some beer. We've got a beer on right now with Galaxy.
Cascade
is another big one.
Just throwing names out there.
School,
Well, no, but Mosaic and to me it seems Mosaic and Galaxy seem to be like the big ones when it comes to.
Yeah, I mean it depends on the month. There's always a flavor of the week.
Yeah, for sure.
Mosaic was
we're talking West Coast, East Coast,
a crowd favorite here. So that's kind of evolved, and that probably has more placements than. We've just expanded our distribution. We're actually out in the Utica market now. We're down Hudson Valley, down to Poughkeepsie, Kingston area.
Matt's Brewing Company.
I worked there for 10 years.
Fred Matt. You must know Fred Matt.
I know Fred,
obviously.
Yeah. I worked for him for 10 years.
He's probably the only like huge brewery guy I know, and he seems like really down to earth. We were out there for a Dark Star Orchestra show. I'm sure you saw probably a few of those while you were there.
Right outside my office.
Right outside your office.
It's on the fourth floor, right next to the stage.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And we actually snuck in there with one of the employees, and Fred caught us up there, and he was not a happy camper, but he let it slide. But it was funny, he came out, and he was like behind the bar. We were, he's just pouring some drafts. And I went back there and I said, hey, Fred, I'm sure you don't remember me. I'm like, I own a little place in Schenectady. I just want to say thanks. Because he'd always give us like VIP tickets to the show. The distributor would always give them to us. And I just said, listen, I know you don't owe me, but I just want to say thanks a lot. I really have a great time here. He's like, oh, yeah. He goes, you're the little place in Schenectady, 20 North or something like that. I'm like, wow. Yeah, I was really impressed that he knew our little Mickey Mouse operation. I mean, Matt's Brewing Company. I mean, that's Genesee and it were probably the biggest brewers in the state.
I think Matt's. I think when I was there, we were doing about 400,000 barrels a
year. Yeah, and he put out a lot, and it was funny too because after getting a beer, he comes out and he's talking to us, and somebody's taking a photo, and he photobombed us. It was hilarious, right in front. He got right in front, and I was like, this guy's real cool. I mean, obviously I don't know a lot of other major brewers, that are that thing, but I was really impressed that he was like a real down to earth guy, and he actually, he might not even know who we were. He might have just saw some on my shirt, but I was impressed that he even came close to knowing who we were, and I was really like happy to see that this guy who's he's like he was born into it. He's
his family's been in the brewery business for many years.
So
going back to the 1880s.
You'd think somebody like that might think that they're something doesn't stink, but he was really down to earth. I was really impressed.
They used to always, I think especially, I met him a few times too. I think he used to come into the radio station all the time, and we'd always have like our on tap. I worked for a local cluster, Town Square, that had that put on the beer. Craft beer on tap. Saratoga here, Schenectady, Albany, Glens Falls. They had them all over the place. AJ Bowden started them. Great guy. And he would come into the radio station and share beers and he was a really good guy.
He was pretty down to earth.
Yeah.
I was out there about 10 years. I started out working as a brewing supervisor, managing brewing filtration, cellars.
Yeah.
Not packaging, but then I moved on to work in the lab. Managing quality and working on new products. So a lot of products that came out there, I was pretty fortunate to work on with Fred.
That's awesome. Now, have you ever mentioned that he's also the very first employee for Founders?
No, we did not mention that. One beer that definitely I remember. That's a good beer.
Yeah, I was.
Did they make the all day IPA? Was that
they
Founders?
Do.
Right.
That
was very popular
after my time.
But, but that was a very popular. Something we ran.
Yeah, I went to. I mentioned before I went to Chicago to Siebel. I went and did half my brewing degree there, and then went back to work for a couple of years. I worked with Drew, who's the other partner here, with him at the Big House in Albany.
Wow.
So
is that where you first met, Drew?
Yeah, we worked together 25 years ago.
That's crazy.
Wow. So it's kind of great coming back to work.
The
with
Big House was 25 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I was.
What was it before? What was it before the Big House?
It was an empty warehouse.
I thought there was something else before. What was it right after?
It was the energy store, which is they had like energy efficiency stuff. It was a warehouse full of old stuff when we got there.
So many floors.
Yeah, it was like
so many times I've been kicked out of that place. Anyway,
so getting back to it, now Mohawk is your biggest seller, probably most popular.
Oh yeah, can we try some?
This
place is impressive, no?
Dude, it's huge.
It's a good one. Isn't it?
And I'm like, I don't really know a lot about construction. Wow, a lot of work has gone into this place. Like
every little detail,
brand new. Everything's brand new. Everything's top quality. It's not like it's amazing.
Except for that skylight, I heard it came off of a yacht.
No, it wasn't a yacht. It was a ferry.
Ferry.
He said it was a ferry. Yeah. It's just. Everything's brand new. It's not like they repurposed anything. It's
not even finished yet. We're sitting in a bar that nobody even knows exists.
It's got beer mats on it, though. I see that.
They're just getting ready.
This is concrete.
Yeah. So what are we? This is the newest. Right off is the tank.
All right.
Watermelon sour.
Ooh.
So do I give this one him?
Yep.
This one to me. And who's this one go to? Drew will join us.
This is
the watermelon. I've had some of the watermelons. They took it right off the tip last time I was here. Yeah. The watermelon sour.
I don't think you're going for aroma on sours.
Nope. Almost smells like a seltzer.
Yeah. I think, well, they're sour, so they're going to smell a little sour, probably.
I'm not much of a sour beer drinker, but I'll drink anything.
Yeah, they're becoming popular, you know. Some people are finding out they really don't like all the bitterness from hops. They're looking for something else that maybe has a similar flavor but doesn't have that bitterness.
I think that's a good base for a mixed drink.
Yeah. You know, the sours to me are almost like not beers.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're just they're almost like a...
Kind of like a seltzer.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Oh.
We got full cans of that. Actually, we're going to... Might as well... Yeah.
Cups over there, yeah. That was nice being able to have JT in. I was hoping we could.
Me too. He walked by and I was just like, what's...
You know, I mean, a lot of this is his, and you know, his drive. You know, without his perseverance and pushing, you know, it probably would never happen. You know what I mean? You got to really, he said what kind of funds he had to put together. You know, Jesus, it's like a lifetime's work.
For him, I'm going to put this right by the actual beer.
Yeah,
delicious. I didn't get a whole.
Wow.
Should I open another one?
There's a very strong. What?
Should I open another one?
I don't think he cares. I mean, there's a very. Holy cow!
West Coast piney.
Very. It's not citrusy.
It's a New England IPA too, which is weird. And it's actually pretty clear.
It is. I was going to say, you know, for an unfiltered.
New England.
For an unfiltered New England, it's pretty clear.
It's made with wheat. It's got the pine, pineapple, and mango notes.
Mango, I guess, is very difficult to translate into beer.
Yeah,
we were talking about that, and I experienced it when we were up at the Schenectady Museum for the distiller and brewer party, which was actually a great thing. I hope they do it again this year. That was a really good event, and it brought together all the local breweries and all the local distillers. Yeah. And like, you know, when I say local, you know, you weren't having people coming from a long way away. It was mostly all people around here and all people that do their business here. That was an excellent, and the museum itself is very interesting. You know, it's a museum, but the mangoes, yes.
We should ask Drew about that. We should ask Rich about. My God.
The mango, the thing was, I was all excited. I'm talking to him, and unfortunately my brain is so terrible that I can't remember the actual brewer I was talking to, but I kind of knew him. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, ooh, you got a mango IPA right there. I'm like, I'd really like to try that. You know, I like mango, and I think it would be good. He looked at me, he goes, you're going to be disappointed. I'm like, what? I said, what? And he goes, listen, man, he goes, it's a fight to get mango into the beer and still have the taste. He goes, you know, a lot of it, you know, the sugar gets eaten by the yeast, so you lose a lot of that. He goes, and just the mango, I guess, is it's a lighter, milder fruit flavor that is easily covered up by other flavors. Yeah. You know, and it doesn't like, you know, like a raspberry or something like that, very tart or cherry or something very strong flavor definitely comes out. Yeah. You know, mango is just too light, I think.
Hey, don't feel bad if you can't drink. You know. Take a couple sips and leave it.
Oh, it's abuse.
Yeah, you know what's funny is, like I said, there's another podcast out there. Have you guys heard of the Stories from a Bar?
I've heard of it. I've listened to a couple of them.
Have you?
We haven't caught up with Chris yet.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay.
We mean to. We're just kind of busy.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because he does more of a spotlight. He's more about the people than he is about the beer. Yeah. And we're more about the beer, but we touch on the people. He's more about the people and touches on the beer.
Okay. Stories.
All
right, we're welcoming somebody to the show here.
Yeah, Drew. I've been calling Rich Drew this entire show.
The brewing partner.
I don't think that's a compliment.
All right. Give me a check on that microphone.
1, 2.
There you are.
Yep, I hear him. Excellent. So what we're doing right now that you're here, we can almost start over. We're doing, we're talking about these particular beers. We already had a lot of discussions about this place, which is very impressive, I might add.
And your history with Rich and
where you've been now.
TJ.
But I'll do this quickly. I'll get this out of the way. What got you into brewing?
I love a beer, really, and a lack of jobs in economics.
There you go. See? Succinct
Is that what you went to school for?
and to the point.
Yeah, I have a degree in economics. So,
and where'd you learn?
Brewing. I started home brewing for a little bit, and then I did an internship at Zip City Brewing, which was down in New York City. That was the second brew pub in the state, I believe.
Wow.
Or it was the second brew pub in New York City. So that was in 92.
Where are you from?
I'm from Westchester County originally.
Down by the city.
So, yeah. So did an internship down there. The brewer who was down there at the time was a graduate of the Siebel Institute in Chicago.
Okay.
So he recommended that I go out there and learn brewing. So I went out there, took their diploma course, and then went down to Baltimore after that.
Awesome.
And brewed down in Baltimore for a couple of years. Before
What was the brewery down there?
Oxford Brewing Company, which then sold out to Heavy Seas. And then after leaving Baltimore, came up to Albany area, and that's where Rich and I met.
Awesome.
Yeah, at the big house.
At the big house, right?
Yeah.
25 years ago.
A long
First
time
brew
ago.
pub in our area.
Yeah.
Browns was around before then.
Were they?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, that's right. He was working at Brown's. Then
There you
went
go.
to
See?
Chicago,
Good thing
came
we have
back.
somebody on the show that actually knows something.
Actually,
First one in Albany, though.
That time was pretty interesting because it was us, the Van Dyke, Malt River
Up in Latham. The production brewery up in Saratoga.
and then Saratoga all opened up, and the brew pub in Saratoga all opened up within probably 9 months of each other.
Now, you have some history with the Van Dyke, and is it true that you were the man behind the Fighting Irwin?
Yeah, Fighting Irwin was one of my recipes, and then the other one that was I don't know if they're still producing it or not, but it was the
Dutchman Ale.
The Dutchman, and then
My favorite, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, still.
Gosh, I'm drawing a total blank here. The
Pinhead
pumpkin
Pilsner?
beer, pumpkin beer, which we made a ton of over there.
Yeah. Well, here's the reason why I bring up the Fighting Irwin is that many of times have I gone into a restaurant and say, yeah, what do you have for Mad Jack? They're like, what? Or I'll be like, oh, is that the Fighting Irwin? They'll be like, that's Mad Jack. I'm like, well, yeah, but is it their Fighting Irwin? No, it's just Mad Jack. I'll take that, whatever it may be. I know it's going to be good, but yes, I'll take that. It's like the Fighting Irwin was so good, and you can find it in so many different bars that people didn't even know it as the Fighting Irwin. They just knew it as the Mad Jack beer.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah, because that was definitely their most popular beer.
Yeah.
That was everywhere. Okay, now we're getting into the beers, and we were saying to Rich, in terms of brewing, we usually ask the people three questions: what's your favorite beer? What's your newest beer? And what's your biggest seller? He mentioned that now what we're on right now is the Mohop IPA, which is a New England style. Number 5, Cascade hops.
Mosaic.
See, I'm never going to get that right.
You thought you knew Cascade was your big word.
Big word.
And also
big
paper
word
company.
of the day. I'm going to say it tastes very piney.
It does.
We didn't catch a lot of citrus in it, as opposed to very piney. Is the Mosaic a West Coast style hop?
Mosaic is one of the newer varieties. It's proprietary. It's only grown by one company at this point. There's some interesting kind of stone fruit notes to it, and there is some pine character to it. Yeah.
It's a lot of pine. Another thing that I noticed too for a New England style IPA, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, the challenge here is trying to make a beer that will be shelf stable, that people can pick up in a can and in a couple of weeks and still be representative of what's at the brewery. So
now, is this fully filtered or is it?
It's unfiltered.
It's unfiltered.
Yeah.
Okay.
But remember, their filtering process is different.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's our mash filtration.
Okay.
So the finished beer filtration, this is this is completely unfiltered.
Yeah.
Now we let the yeast settle out naturally, and then we move it on to the bright tank, which you guys saw.
Yep.
So some of the hazier New England IPAs don't necessarily hold up in time in a can. So we're, our production, we're a production brewery, so we're looking to serve beer here and also put beer out of the market and hopefully stay hazy, but not chunky in the bottom of the can.
Do you have to pasteurize the canned beer, right?
Absolutely not.
No, you do not.
No. So we do have a pasteurizer. We do use that for certain products. So the fruit beers, where we actually have fruit juice to sweeten the product, those beers are pasteurized. But the traditional can is unpasteurized.
Okay, all right.
Awesome. And it's delicious, by the way. It's very. And you said that this may. There's another beer that you have here that rivals this one for your number one seller.
Well, our Vienna lager is also right up there. We've got a lot of placements with the Vienna and the Mohawk both. It kind of depends on the crowd, and it seems to depend on the week.
Yeah.
One may jump ahead of the other, but Mohawk's been strong and steady the whole time.
Yep.
But the Vienna's a strong number two, if not stepping out in front of it once in a while.
Awesome. Now, we were talking, I'm sorry, we've brought this up in past episodes, that this also has a little bit of a mango note to it. Are you actually using real mangoes in this?
No, this is all hops.
Okay.
It's,
so the mango flavor is just a little bit from the hop, not from actual?
From Mosaic hop, yeah.
Right.
So we add the hops in late in fermentation, and the yeast has the ability to break out certain aromatics from the hop later on with biotransformation. So you'll see some interesting notes come out in some of the newer hop varieties.
Yes, there's some brewers in the past that have used actual mangoes and have had a hard time
puree. I believe they do. Yeah.
Having that flavor transition into the final product.
Yeah, I mean, Drew, over the years, I remember years ago we made a beer with peach, and peach did not come through very well.
No.
What's his name said that over at
Whitman?
Whitman. Yep, said the same thing. Peach does not come through well.
Yeah, some fruits don't come through as well as you'd expect. So we try and work with some of the hop varieties to get some of those notes.
Awesome.
And then years ago, we also put a little apricot in that seemed to bring some peach character.
I'm sorry,
the apricot probably brings up the peach flavor, or gives it the more.
So
peach.
we use some late kettle additions in this beer with Citra. You mentioned not a lot of citrus character, and that's okay.
Yeah.
The Citra really helps enhance some of the other characteristics. There's some synergy with some of the chemistry there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely there's a tangy afternote to it, not that thick IPA. There's a little tanginess to the end of it,
and it doesn't stay on your tongue.
Yeah, it cuts. It cuts that. Yeah.
So
after
a lot of the New England's people are putting in real heavy hop dosings in the dry hop, and that adds a lot of phenolic character, which can actually add a burning note as you swallow. So we've purposely kept it down, toned it down a little bit. We're on the lighter side of a lot of the more popular ones out there, but we think it keeps away that burn. Which makes it a little bit more
almost
refreshing.
like the alcohol burn.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
It dries your palate right out, and you lose some of the hop character to the burn and to the phenolics.
Yeah, we're a little bit over 2 pounds per barrel in this.
Okay.
And when we first hop it, we do get that little bit of hop bite to it, and that mellows out, and we think it like the beer better that way.
What's the percentage on this?
That's about 6.8%.
Okay. So that also helps cut down on the. I would imagine part of getting rid of that burn is also lowering the alcohol.
It makes for a smoother product overall. For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, now that was awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
Now I figured we'll go on to the new one because these guys might have two different favorites.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting discussion.
Yes, that's why I wait on that one. I want to.
I'll say that Rich did give us a dark-looking beer.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, so we won't talk. We don't. Wait. I don't know what it is.
It'll be like a surprise, like Christmas.
I know what it is now.
But what we have here is what? It's a sour.
It's a watermelon sour. It's a product we just released on draft about 10 days ago, and we promptly sold out of. It was a small batch we did, and then we've actually produced enough of it this time to do a short can run.
Now, what makes a sour different than a traditional ale or lot? Now what is a sour? Is a lager or an ale?
It is technically an ale.
Okay.
So this in fermentation, we work with a couple strains that our ale yeast and our lager yeast, and we bring in special strains that will also produce some other flavors, including lactic acid.
Is that what makes it the sour?
It is. Yep.
All right.
So it's got a nice tart character to it, and we talk in beer about the malt character versus the hop character. Does it lean malty? Does it lean hop forward? We talked about that. The Mohawk IPA is more hop forward, And we have the Vienna Lager that's more malt forward.
Yeah.
So that's our kind of our palate we work with.
Yeah.
And then malt, we can go different directions with roast and toast and things like that. In the sour beers, we work with sweet and sour.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different palate to work with. So in fermentation, we do produce alcohol. We also have some stuff going on to produce lactic acid, which is just a nice tart character, which is balanced out by the sweetness of the fruit.
Yeah. And now I got a couple questions. How do you put the watermelon? Like, how do you get the watermelon? What do you use for that?
We are pretty particular about where we get our flavors from. We actually don't use artificial flavors or even natural flavors. We use real juice. So you guys sampled our cherry wheat before.
Yeah.
We use tart cherry juice. In this case, we're using watermelon juice concentrate. We have a supplier that purees and processes watermelons to produce a stable juice product.
Now, I noticed these are lesser, maybe carbonated. Is that a traditional?
I took this right off the tank.
Okay. So you were.
This has not been released in cans.
Okay.
We're going to be doing the can run tomorrow, so these are kind of snapshots in process right now.
Now, you also let these naturally carbonate, too.
We do pick up a fair amount of carbonation in fermentation. We do touch it up in the tank.
The sours you have to a little bit more?
In all the beers, it's pretty similar.
Okay.
So we pick up a little more than half the carbonation traditional in fermentation. The rest we've been off, and then we set it exactly where we want it. So when it makes it to the bar, it pours nicely, hopefully.
Awesome.
No, I hope you guys don't take this the wrong way, but you know what this reminds me of is a watermelon Jolly Rancher.
It does have sweet and tart.
It's sweet and tart, and
yeah.
I hate to admit it. There's not a lot of beer element. It's almost it's very.
Next to sour apple, watermelon's my favorite Jolly Rancher.
Sour apple's terrible. It's the worst.
It's the best.
It's the worst. Skittles, I'm ready to kill them. They changed the lime to sour apple, now I won't eat them.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
Lime is
I
my
actually
favorite.
ate around all of them, and I put all the green ones back in the bag, and I was going to mail it back to Skittles. I'm like, you can take these back.
There's some venue out there that has a rider where they want nothing but green Skittles, right?
Yeah, it was a band. They wanted the green M&Ms.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, our palate here is the tart and the sweet, both.
Yeah.
We do have another sour beer that's been in production for some time. That's raspberry and cherry with the tart character as well. We talked about doing something interesting this summer, and we had an opportunity to buy, watermelon juice.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. I mean, and the tartness is a great part of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's good. They go together very well. Like you said, it's Jolly Rancher.
Yeah, and like I said, we're very particular. We do use real juice in our products.
Yeah.
It's sometimes a little more challenging to find those, but...
I was going to say, so you don't juice it yourself?
No, we have a juice supplier that processes it and standardizes it, so it's the same sugar content each time.
Nice. Actually, you know what? Call me crazy, but like...
You're crazy.
Take one of your Bavarian...
you're never going to get
Bavarian. Bavarian yeast
German.
beers, one of your German beers, and give it a splash of the watermelon carbonated juice.
Somewhere there's a passed away German brewer turning over in his grave.
Rolling over. I mean, it's great. Like in terms of we talk about summer beers, but for somebody who wants to get away from what everybody's going to IPA wise and stuff like that, and especially when it's warm out, this is nice. Like you say, it's not really a seltzer, but.
No.
It has that.
It's in the direction of a lemonade.
Yeah, it has that kind of.
It's not a shanty. It's not a
shandy.
It's okay.
A shanty is what you use to ice fish out of.
Oh, sorry.
A shandy.
Shandy. Or a riddle.
It's
riddle.
It's definitely a pump.
Kind of shape pump.
It's okay. You can let it go.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I think it's a.
We like the hustle. We like the hustle and bustle.
Air compressor.
So this product we did produce in draft pretty recently, and it was very popular. So we're doing a can release of this.
Yeah,
we'll be doing a can run.
Definitely, really, for somebody who wants a refreshing change from traditional beer, this is definitely it.
Yeah,
especially if you're an ale fan.
It's pretty light. It's about 3.6% alcohol.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
And you can always get a growler of this, take some home, and put a little tequila and triple sec, and it makes a hell of a margarita.
Yeah.
What was I telling you?
Yeah. Yes, you were. You did say
this
that.
is a great base.
You might actually have that recorded.
I probably
so
do.
You could probably look back at it.
Put it back in there and be like, see, I told you.
Yeah. Definitely. I could definitely see that.
I'm too lazy to do
So
that.
this is new for us this week. We also have a Harvest Ale, which is pumpkin spice coming out as well.
Okay.
So we've got a couple of new things popping up.
Now,
Is
how
that a
long
Marsden?
did you have to start that pumpkin spice?
See,
how long?
that's what I was asking. Is it a Marsden beer?
See, I wasn't going to go that far, but
Actually,
whatever.
it's technically an ale, so
Yeah.
it's a couple-week process. Ours is about 7% alcohol, cinnamon, nutmeg,
Okay.
traditional pumpkin spice.
Yes, we were talking about Oktoberfest. Well, somebody
March.
straightened us out. That I and he were both under the impression that when you get an Oktoberfest style beer, because everybody does it in the fall, that it's using fall type ingredients. And I don't know who was it that straightened us out on that. Was it Brian?
Brian
from
your protege
over to Van Dyke straightened us out and said, no, they actually started that beer in the spring, in March, and it was ready in October.
So, Fest beers and
we've kind of shied away from doing Oktoberfest beer. We have our Vienna Lager, which is one of our year-round favorites. And
that's a great beer.
It's good.
It's probably my favorite one, actually, that you guys make.
Very much in the same neighborhood. So
Yep. Very smooth. Not a lot of aftertaste. I'm talking about the Vienna Lager. That's a really if you're going to get into having some beers, that's kind of where you want to go. I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't have. It's not overly.
What's the percentage on that?
Flavor.
It's about 5.4.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And approachable by a lot of people who aren't hopheads.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's so successful.
My girlfriend.
Yes, exactly. There are a lot of people that don't get into that hops. For me, I hate to admit I'm one of those people. I'm just I just can't get into that hoppy flavor. I'd rather have this, something like the Vienna Lager.
I like it all except for stouts.
You don't like Guinness?
No, I don't.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to cut you off the show.
That's fine.
That's terrible.
I still drink. I like all beer. I will take a beer over a glass of water, no matter what kind of beer it is. Even if it has I'm not a pumpkin fan, but I would still drink it.
Yeah, and I mean, the pumpkin beers are always popular, but I don't think pumpkin is what people are necessarily looking for in a pumpkin beer.
Yeah,
it's the spices.
Yeah,
it's the time of the season married with those spices that they're looking for.
Do they use cinnamon and nutmeg probably?
Now you guys go ahead and continue. I got to use the bathroom real quick. If you guys want to continue talking, I'm going to keep this recording.
Yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine. I'm curious now. We're going to do your favorite beer. You can say it now. I don't care. What's this?
That is our porter.
Okay.
So we produced the porter pretty much since we opened up. It had a little hiatus over the summertime this year. Last year we produced it year-round, but it's going to be back, and it's going to be year-round again.
I've often wondered, what's the difference between a porter and a stout?
It's mainly the alcohol content and the bitterness.
Okay.
So porters are going to be a little bit beefier in alcohol content and a little bit higher in the bitterness.
Okay. But they're essentially made very similarly?
They're made of similar ingredients normally. Depending, there's a lot of different types of stouts. There's sweet stouts, milk stouts, imperial stouts.
Yep.
So, you have a full gamut there. But in general, most people are thinking of an Irish style Guinness, Murphy's.
Murphy's, yep. That's one I could.
So the porter's going to be a little bit beefier as far as alcohol content, a little bit beefier as far as body, and the bitterness as well.
Totally missed it, but it's recorded, so perfect.
I didn't miss anything. I was here the whole time.
You missed the stout segment.
I'm kidding. I like stouts. I like some stouts. This is a porter. I'm like,
yes, it is. Yeah. That is a porter.
It's a chocolatey coffee porter, like most porters are. Stouts are good. Probably my least favorite stouts are milk stouts. But I like darker beers. Just porters and stouts kind of are on that deep end for me, and they're great with a meal. It's not something I want to sit around drinking.
Yeah.
Now my girlfriend will drink those. That she'll sit at a party and do nothing but drink stouts and porters.
So it was kind of the first beer show I ever attended, which was 25 plus years ago. We brought a dunkel to that, and I had people approach me and say, I don't do dark beer. And I'm like, well, do you drink coffee? And they're like, yeah, I love coffee. And I'm like, well, think of it more like coffee than a beer. It's not going to be an American style light lager. It's going to be a roastier flavor, and it's going to be a little bit more full body. It's going to be so if you like coffee with a little bit of sugar, think of it more on that end of the spectrum than your Keystone Light.
Yeah.
Keystone.
Yeah, dark is a color,
That's
not a flavor.
the equivalent of Busch and Busch Light, Anheuser-Busch Weiss.
I have a cousin who does nothing but drink Keystone, so.
Right, that's Coors Light, I want to say. Right?
He lives in Texas.
Hey, whatever floats your boat. We have now we got everybody back here. This is, Richie, this is your favorite?
This is my favorite.
This is a porter.
This is what we call the heart and soul. This is the one that...
This is your favorite. This is the one
baby.
Yep.
This is porter. This is a beer I love.
Yes.
Lots of roast character. We use some dark caramel malt in it. The feature is really the roasted malt. We use an imported British chocolate malt for that character, and everywhere I've worked, I've always made a porter that I like.
Oh, there you go. This is very coffee and chocolatey.
Now, what's the name of this?
Captain Ellis Porter.
Captain what?
Captain Ellis Porter.
Ellis?
Yep. So earlier, JT mentioned the local baseball team was called the Schenectady Frog Alleys. The third baseman was the team captain. His last name was Ellis.
Wow. Was he related to the Ellis Hospital?
There's probably some history there.
Yeah.
I don't really know, but
for sure.
I'm sure there's history. So lots of roast character, a little bit of sweetness from some caramel malt. If you're a coffee drinker,
that's what Drew was just saying. It's very, very coffee similar.
So, Drew, this is also your favorite beer, correct?
Well, I'm gonna disappoint everybody right now, and I've been saying this for years, but I honestly go back and forth between beers.
Okay.
I can't say as I have a favorite. I can't say I have a favorite by season, or there's no rhyme or reason. I've been drinking, when the watermelon first came out, it was our first new beer in a while, and I was drinking a lot of that. I always love the New Englands. I go back and forth. You're not going to be able to pin me down. And it's just, I don't know. I love beer. I love all beer. And I'm willing to try any beer.
You guys are, yeah.
I mean, there's always something new and always something fresh. It's hard to turn that down.
Out of all the breweries we go to, outside, I think Whitman, a lot of the breweries we go to, they only have a handful, maybe 10. I mean, how many beers do you have on tap at any given time?
So
you have the capacity for quite a few.
We have 40 different draft lines right now.
Wow.
For a long time, we were so busy on the weekends that having too many beers was just creating chaos for the bartenders. So we were down to 10 to 12 beers. We're building up, and we're going to be up to 20 beers. Hopefully next week, I think we're up to 20 beers.
That's crazy.
It's a lot of choices.
You know what you should do is you should break up all the different bars between, all right, this one's
your porter
ales.
bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably could do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of space here.
And then just take those bartenders and make them experts on that style of beer.
Yeah. Well, and that's always a challenge, too, to keep the bartenders up to snuff on what we're producing.
How do you do that?
Dave,
Yes. And, that's one of I hate to say this for me is very educational. I feel bad. I've been in this business for 20 years now, pretty much. And I really didn't have a lot of knowledge of beer making. I could tell you who made what beers. I could tell you what they were. But I didn't really have an intricate knowledge of what makes a beer. What goes into it. How does it? This has been very educational. I'd say, and I can go to my customers now with a little bit more confidence and say, hey, you want to try this because of this and this and this. I fell into the business.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I woke up one day and said I want to work in the bar. That doesn't really. I kind of fell into the business, and now that it's pretty much my career. I really, really should know more about what makes beer. I will say this has been very educational, and I don't know if the word is psyched, but I'm definitely more comfortable talking to customers about why you might want this beer or that beer. Even like we did some food pairings. What kind of beer goes well with different foods. And
exactly.
Said, I'm going to get some wings. What kind of beer do I want? I'm like, well, you really don't want to go with like a Guinness. You might want to go with something
if you're like a New England IPA, so it has a little bit more of a citrus flavor. So
if
hot
your staff can make a recommendation, it's a huge win.
Yeah, and I've found that customers really do take that to heart.
For sure.
If I go to a customer and say, hey, I would try this if I were you, 9 times out of 10 they're going to say,
they're going to try it,
absolutely.
It's what we call added value too. They're not paying for it, but you're more educated on it, so it's better. And another thing, if you want to check out one of our podcasts, we did a barbecue pairing podcast, and it's one thing we're starting to notice that a lot of people pair like wine with food. Beer is so much more diverse than when it comes to wine, or when compared to wine. When it comes to food, there's just so many different styles of food, and it's probably my favorite podcast we ever did, just because we got to experiment and have a little bit of fun with it.
Well, we also outside by the pool,
yes,
and we were stuffing our gullet with great food.
But beer also has the extra dimension of the hops.
Yes,
so the hops can provide all that spiciness and a lot of the wine is a little bit
red, white,
Wine people are going to hate me for saying this, but one-dimensional when it comes to beer, and especially all the beers that are being produced now with sour beers and fruit beers, and
And Kevin McClurkin, you guys know him from 151.
Sure.
He was really good. He's like, you don't always have to like pair like a certain food with a certain beer. Some beers complement and some beers contrast. You know what I mean? So you can go so many different ways with your whatever food choice you have. You can say, well, we can go with this, or we can go with this, or we can go with this, and they all work in a different way.
Yeah.
Some of the best beer dinners I've done are beer versus food. You do course by course beer with one course, wine with the next course, and you go back and forth all night. It's a blast.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I 100%. My girlfriend is a little bit. The beautiful Jessica. Excuse me, the beautiful Jessica. She yells at me every time I see my girl. She's a wine connoisseur. She has like $1,000 bottle of wine sitting in our little refrigerator.
And what's that address again?
It's 127 Union Street. 137 or 237. Dude, by the way, I watched
get it right.
I watched The
There's going to be
Shining.
3 homeowners that are really pissed off now.
Dude, I've been breaking into 7 houses this week. I can't find
Somewhere
that
there's a
damn
bottle
bottle
of
of wine.
I watched Doctor Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining. The haunted room in the hotel is 237.
Absolutely is.
Why didn't we think of that during the?
I don't know. And I just watched was it Ready Player One?
Yeah.
And they had that scene
really?
in there, 237. I just remember watching it. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It was the exact same scene.
Yeah.
Like the room, the big entryway where it was. I was like, wow, it's like I'm watching this movie. Oh, it's a decent movie, but it was just amazing. Like I'm like, wow, they actually have the scene from The Shining, and these different characters are in the same room.
Well, in Doctor Sleep, they cut between original footage and then like actors playing some of the original characters, so they're a little off. Like there's a scene with Miss Torrance, what's his name's mom, and she's an actress earlier in the movie, but they actually cut to the scene where what's his name cuts through the door.
Shelley Duvall.
Well, no, his name Jack Nicholson cuts to the door, and she's sitting there with she's on the other side of the door, with the knife. Yeah. They actually cut to that scene in the second movie, but early in the thing, it wasn't obviously Shelley Duvall that was playing. It was an
Somebody
actress
else
that looked like her.
Yeah.
And they used the kid from E.T. to play Jack Nicholson.
Elliot.
Yes, they used him to play Jack Nicholson, and later in the movie.
That's funny you mention that. That is one of my that's just a great movie.
The Shining.
And I want to say, I'm not sure that's true, the scene where he breaks through the door with the axe.
Yeah.
He ad-libbed that.
Johnny.
He ad-libbed that.
That's crazy.
It's from the Johnny Carson show.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he ad-libbed that line. I think, and they left it in there. Like it wasn't part of the
They
have
to put a whole another door up. Who wants to do that?
It wasn't part of the script, so he leans in. I with that, and Jack Nicholson. You know what you're getting with that.
What a great. And by the way, he was also a fan of Prekka's bread.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know what. Yeah. There's.
Elaborate.
He was here for was Ironweed.
Something. Yeah.
He was here in town for Ironweed, I want to say, and that was a book by a local author. So they filmed some of it in Albany, and I think maybe some of it might have been done in Schenectady, or he was here, and somehow he got his he got his hands on Prekka's bread. And there's like an article,
and hanging up inside the restaurant
that says they were shipping it out to him.
Yeah,
he's like, I really want this bread. He's like, I don't care. He goes, just put it in a whatever box and mail it out.
Send it out to me in L.A.
Send it out to me. I don't know if they're still doing it, but I mean, I know
no,
they
did
were
it for a handful of times.
Yeah,
I talked to the people over there.
Tony?
No, what's her name?
I don't know. It's amazing. You can go in there at like 4 o'clock. Like
yes,
I get out of work. I used to get out of work.
Yeah,
late.
Well, no,
late,
I used to leave
3 o'clock in the morning, and I could go down there and get food. Yeah,
go to the other bar.
Yeah,
the Sawmill.
The Sawmill. Yeah,
and then when you get kicked out of there, you walk in there,
right up there,
or you can go in there before you went to the
little
Sawmill.
Tomato pie in the middle of the night. Let me tell you, that's the best.
That's so good.
Tomato pie. Utica thinks they're all about their tomato pie. Let me tell you, Civitello's and Prekka's. They make some good tomato pie. Civitello's makes good tomato pie too.
Wow.
All right, now we're way off subject. Now this was porter was your favorite. It's delicious.
It's mine. Yes.
It's very mellow. It's not too.
It's a bit higher in chocolate malt than most of the other porters, I think. So it's got a lot of strong roast notes to it.
But it doesn't push out the coffee. Like you'll try some porters that are super.
It's like drinking cold coffee.
Yeah.
There's no coffee in that. That's just malt.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much it tastes like it.
Yeah. Yep. Same roasting process.
It's amazing how many bars I've gone to that say, you have a porter, I hope it's not a coffee porter. I want a straight-up porter. Because so many people are producing coffee porters
yeah.
that it's
with
sort of
real
become
grains,
the go-to
yeah.
of it, where this is a more traditional porter, has the nice roasted character to it, but it doesn't have the coffee.
Yeah.
You know, when you were working, you said you were working at Matt's. Were you there when they were doing the Saranac brewing?
Yeah. They still do.
They still, you know, I want to say they had was it a mocha porter? Caramel? I don't know. I can't remember what it was. It was like, remember, there was a seasonal... There was a seasonal 12-pack you could get, and it had 2, and
Yep, they still do the variety packs.
it was the Adirondack Amber, the Pale Ale, and then they had ones that they didn't sell as much. And one was a porter, one was a stout.
If you ask Fred, the 12-pack started out as hey, let's do something different to get our beer in front of people.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's taken over as a significant part of their business now, and they have to do.
Now they have to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was actually when it was like a holiday pack, and you'd get a 12-pack, and it would have
every
6 different beers, 2 of each. All right.
Do you remember the Saranac Grizzlies?
I don't. Oh, the growlers.
It was a beer that had a bear on it, a black bear on the actual label. We used to call them Grizzlies, but I can't remember what
Black
the name
Forest.
I don't think it was Black Forest.
Remember the
I
Black
think there were
Forest?
several beers that had bears on them in my tenure there, I guess.
But we called them Grizzlies. Oh, man, I thought if anybody knew it was going to be you.
Were you responsible? Did you make the Adirondack Amber?
No. That recipe is actually the original beer that came out of Saranac in probably mid-'80s.
Still to this day, one of my favorite beers, the Adirondack Amber. I think they changed it to the Adirondack Lager, which I didn't like as much.
Yeah, it's marketing.
Yeah, of course. Marketing. All right, now we did this porter. Now we got one more beer to check
So
out.
we've got a beer here. Back to the whole new concept. We're talking about the sour watermelon beer earlier. This is our harvest ale. So this is
it's going to have pumpkin in it?
Yeah, pumpkin spice, some vanilla notes to it.
Oh, I like vanilla.
Okay, I thought for a second maybe this was your favorite.
No. This is the other new.
You can't pin him down.
You can't pin me down.
For a second. Hey, little guy. Come on out of there.
What is the one beer that you've ever made that you're most proud of?
Gosh, man, put me on the spot.
That's what I do.
I don't know. The industry has changed so much. Rich and I have been in the industry for 25 years. When we first got into the industry, if you produced an amber ale, it was pretty innovative. If
you were a rock star. Amber ale was it, man.
If you produced this probably 5 years later, if you produced an IPA that was 55 BUs, it was blowing people's minds. And then the industry has just progressed, and there's a lot of young kids who are just going crazy and doing stuff that we would never have thought about 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what makes beer interesting. That's why beer is still, a leading. The craft brew business is still leading as far as market share. It's still growing.
Yeah.
And if you look historically, you'll see a switch between wine and spirits and beer, and it's different generations don't want to be drinking what their fathers were drinking. But
that would be Meisterbrau.
But craft brewing has continued to grow for 25 plus years.
Yeah,
and it's because
it doesn't really show any signs of slowing down.
It doesn't. I mean, there's still so much innovation that's happening out there, and the innovation that's happening in craft brewing is forcing the other markets to be more creative as well. And that's when you started seeing the flavored vodkas and the wines and the
Budweiser
spirits.
needs to step up their game.
For sure.
Fireball would have never happened 20 years ago.
Nope.
Now, that brings up an interesting question, and if you guys are uncomfortable with this, I can delete this, but...
I like uncomfortable.
Okay.
It's his middle name.
I brought this up to you a little bit earlier. Me coming from the radio industry, I've noticed that the new school of radio would produce 60 students in a market that could probably handle 6 new jobs, if that. So you have all these people that are coming out. Do you see the same thing happening with the school? And also, do you see that with so many new breweries in such a small little area, are they going to cannibalize each other?
I don't think at this point. I still think there's so much room in the market.
Okay.
I think it's going to depend on the creativity of the person who's getting into the job and their dedication to their craft.
Yeah. So basically,
there are probably 10,000 artists who want to be artists that you haven't heard of.
Exactly.
And there's a few artists that you have heard of.
Yep.
And part of it is luck, but part of it is devotion too. And I think it's that devotion that helps you rise to the top.
One of the reasons why I started this podcast is because I want to actually help all these different breweries kind of get their own little spotlight. And for us to actually try the beer, I know in the past...
I'm just in it to drink beer, and they just give us beer for free. That's what
Salud. Thank you, guys.
We're just this recording device is a sham.
This recording's going nowhere.
Right.
We were just going to talk about the beers, but of course we got to sample them too. There's been times that Dave and I have also tried some beers before that we had a hard time finding positive things to say about it just because it wasn't our taste. So,
our wheelhouse.
Yeah, so we didn't talk about it. We're not going to talk negatively about a beer.
But I mean that there's a lot of great beer being produced. You don't have to like every beer that's out there.
You can't.
I don't like every beer that's out there. Every beer has some merit, a lot of merit, and it depends. Again, it depends on how it was crafted and what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, and what's your market? Right now we've got some challenges in the hospitality business with COVID and everything. But, if you have a little restaurant and you make food, make beer too.
Yeah.
You could do this anywhere.
Yeah.
If you make good beer.
Listen, I'm on this. All right.
I've been sending you links.
I do. Trust me. I'm working on it.
I mean, there's some, as Drew mentioned, there's some beers that you're not too thrilled about now, but people are starting out and they're got their bumps. But if you can figure it out and start making good beer, you can be here forever.
And
there's going to be challenges in shelf life or shelf space.
Yeah.
If you go to a Price Chopper, Hannaford Stewart's, or a beverage store, how many brands can they put on the shelf?
Yeah, exactly.
What's your market? If you're making beer in your tap room, keep doing it.
And when we talked to someone else, they said there was another brewer and said they said they made this beer and they didn't like it at all. But all their friends tried it and said it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You got to put it out.
Yeah,
and it ended up being one of their most successful beers. Yeah. You realize even as a brewer, you're not going to love. You may not love every beer you make.
Have you guys run into that?
I'm not a huge fan of pumpkin beers. But
by the way, I don't really taste a whole lot of pumpkin. I taste
is that what this is?
Bubblegum.
I totally
taste
lost
bubblegum.
Yeah, we get pumpkin spice, a little bit of vanilla note to it. I think it's what people want for a pumpkin.
I don't know so much pumpkin. It's very spicy though. It has that cinnamony or
cinnamon, nutmeg.
Yeah,
get a little bit of ginger in it. I think that's what
ginger. Yep.
I think that's what
people are looking for when you say, it doesn't taste like pumpkin. Like that's what you're looking for.
It's not the first beer I pick up.
Yeah.
If I said to you, I'm making a squash beer. You're not running out to buy it, but that's what pumpkin is, right?
It's a gourd, maybe. Is that what it's gourd?
It's not an acorn. It's not a spaghetti. But
people are looking for the spice, and that's why we focused on this.
Yeah, we worked on making a product that the consumer wants. It may not be the beer that I pick up after work, but we try to make the best example of it possible. We're not going to be, I don't like that, so I'm not making it. There's a market for everything. So if we can do a good job doing it.
Is this particular? What did you say? It's a pumpkin beer. Is this available now, or you putting it out?
We're going to be canning this, I believe, Friday.
Okay, so it's coming out soon enough.
This is straight
by
off
by the time people hear this.
Yes.
So you guys are talking about what's new.
What's today?
That's not
Today's
much.
Wednesday?
Today's Wednesday. So
when are you
by
putting
the
this
time
out?
this comes out, Friday. You said
Friday.
Yeah.
Goes in
So
the
by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be ready. So the droves will be.
I'll be
flocking.
Specific to make sure that I put that out at that point.
So we're trying to, we try and make traditional styles as great examples as we can. What can we do? We all have our favorites, but there's brewers who say, "Well, I don't like filtered beers. I'll never filter my beer." Well, what's the consumer want? Who's paying your bills? How do you?
Now, I just thought of an odd question, and then we can edit this if you feel like it.
Please.
But is there anybody that you guys consider like the superstar of brewing? Like if you said, you know what you're doing, obviously, and you enjoy your, whatever you do, but if can you actually look back and say, look around and say, well, this guy really is like the Hall of Fame brewer, and he somehow manages to just put out a product that no matter what
I'm
he
looking
does,
at him right now.
he touches gold. Okay, see, I wondered if that was going to happen. Everything he touches turns to gold.
No, there's so many great examples of wonderful beers these days. I mean, you guys talked about you're up in Rocket Lake and you can find a local beer. That's great, and they're making good beer.
Have you guys tried Fidens?
I've had a can before. I think one of my past students is working over there. I haven't taken the time to go over there yet because of COVID. But, there's a lot of great beer out there.
What about what's the one?
And I mean, the superstar from last year is not the superstar from 2 years ago. It's not the superstar from 5 years ago. So I mean, that's what makes beer so interesting and so great, is that it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
And 20, 30 years ago, you go to a city, like, well, it's hard to find a brewery. Now it's like, well, most of them are pretty good.
It's hard to visit every brewery.
Yeah.
We talked about this in one of our very first episodes, if not the first episode. Is like, Dave, like, bro, we can go 2 blocks that way and be at a brewery. Go 2 blocks that way and be at a brewery. And go a couple blocks that way and be at a brewery. Like, you can't go, like, and it's awesome. Like,
it's a good time to be a beer drinker.
Yes, yeah.
Most certainly is.
Speaking of which, we just Monday was also National Beer Lovers Day.
Labor Day?
Labor Day was also National Beer Lovers Day. So
every day for me.
You asked about going to Chicago. I haven't been out to Chicago in probably 7 years. There's 100 new breweries since I was there last. It's phenomenal.
I got a short list. Not saying that I'm going in 2 weeks, but I've got a short list saying that there's a couple places I got to check out.
What about Omegang?
Yeah.
I always I've had several of their beers, and I always felt that they seemed like they were like a step up. A step above.
If beer has got a great history in Belgium, and they're owned by a Belgian company, and they started out, they were started as by a company that used to import Belgian beer, and that's kind of been their focus. And there's a great brewing history there. They do make some great beers.
I will say this. I think I'm not knowing much about beers. I think I'm a Belgian beer fan.
Yeah.
Just based on.
What do you think of this beer?
I like this, and I usually generally don't like pumpkin spice beers, but
there's definitely a Belgium taste.
Well, Belgian brewers have often relied on some yeast that produce some spicy aromatics, some clove.
Oh, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Belgian beers. We talked about wit beer before as a style, and that's traditionally brewed with coriander and orange peel. So I mean, there's definitely some overlap there in spice beers in Belgium. And
to tell you the truth, my favorite wit that I've had in a long time, Great Flats. That pineapple
was excellent.
Wit, phenomenal.
That was. I will admit, no offense to you guys, but that was excellent.
There was lots of good beer.
Nothing
offensive about that at all.
No, exactly.
That was excellent.
And same thing with like Fidens. It's funny because Fidens
they had no product.
Well, they're sold out.
Sold right out. They had no product.
I tried kidnapping you on Thursday, by the way.
Thursday
last week, but you weren't there.
I feel bad,
Well, you weren't feeling well,
yeah.
But I took I had to go to Glenville, and then on the way back, I was like, oh, if Dave's there, I'm kidnapped. I went to that can release, bro. I left your place at like 3:20. I got there at like 3:38. They were sold out.
Wow,
sold out, and they were supposed to be open from 3 to 7.
Oh,
they had a couple of crowlers left of their own stuff, but it was like everything was just gone. So they've got but they have an interesting business model. They know that they can do more, but they don't want to. They just want to stay in this little box and produce what they do well and not go too far. They don't want to make too much. They don't want to. They like selling out. They like only producing a handful of different styles of beers.
If that's your business model, more power to you.
And what they do well.
Yeah.
And on top of it, I mean, they're all self-taught. So it's interesting.
I think they have somebody working for them who did the program at Schenectady.
I believe. Well, was it Steve
Garrett?
Okay, yeah. Steve is their head brewer. Yeah. So I think for sure. Obviously, they're going to bring somebody in who.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they came up with like a certain business model, and they've just stuck to it. And one of the problems they ran into is some people thought they were a little more stuck up or not. And they're like,
well, there's some Russian River. Vinny makes some great beers out there, and they were very slow to expand production. They have at this point, but Pliny the Elder is that's one of the ones that people line up for, and you can't get it, and you got to trade somebody for it, and it's kind of a big deal. But they've slowly expanded.
Yeah,
but you got to figure that out.
We talked about that with Hetty Topper.
Yeah, the Alchemist, is the brewery company, and like I said, we've said this, a double-edged sword. What makes you popular and you unable to obtain your beer can work against you when other beers come out and they're more available.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. A lot of my friends said, "All right, we're done with dealing. Have to run I'll go all the way up to the Alchemist and get beer when I can go to Glenville and get like a sip of sunshine.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know if it's the same exact beer. I mean, I don't know.
A sip of sunshine is good.
But like, and he's like, listen, I can get sip right here. And why do I want to travel all the way out there? As good as their beer is, unfortunately, there's other beers that are comparable that are available, and that hurts you.
Some of the breweries you guys have mentioned have hired trained career brewers to work for them now.
Yeah.
It's people I know.
Yeah.
Well,
very small world.
And I mean, if you are comfortable producing a set amount of beer and it pays your bills, and
what's wrong with that?
If you can say, hey, you know what, I can work Monday through Wednesday, do a can release, and I can have a couple more days off, why not?
Yeah.
If you're comfortable doing that, and then there's other people who are going to keep chasing the stars and saying, I want to be the next.
Yeah.
You fill
Keep
in the
pushing
blank
the
on
envelope.
whoever it is.
Now, one of the things I was going to say, too, is that you can tell there's a certain culture at Fidens that, like, even when I reached out to them, they were like, yeah, just send us what you've got. Like, they were kind of standoffish. And at first I thought it's fine. They just want to make sure that we're legit. We're not just two weirdos trying to get free beer off of them, which we
actually are.
That's why we love you.
But I sent them our podcast with, and I reached out to them before we did our podcast with Great Flats and Harry. And I said, hey, listen, this is just to give you an idea of what we do with a brewery. This is what it is. And they listened to it and they're like, oh, okay, then you guys can come in now. Like, they were really standoffish.
You guys just want to skip the line, don't you?
Yeah, but then once they realize that we actually have an agenda as far as like promoting the beer that we're drinking, and actually wanting to learn more about the process, then they were like, okay, then we'll meet with you guys.
We can talk to you guys then.
Yeah,
you guys just don't skip the lines.
It's funny, as I walked in here and I was telling you this, I said, hey, what's going on? My name's Nick with the Capital Brew Podcast. Which one are you? I'm Nick. Oh yeah, cool. Like there's people here that have actually heard of the podcast, and you guys had obviously heard the podcast too, or heard of it. Haven't heard it yet, but it's
all the 6 people out there.
Yeah, well, 4 of them in this room.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, 3 of them are in this room.
My mom doesn't even listen to it.
You don't even listen to it.
Yeah.
I don't listen to it.
Every week you had a brewer, that's like one more person, right?
Yes,
at least.
No, we're doing pretty good. Good. Out of nowhere, we did our podcast over there at Van Dyke, and that kind of blew up real fast. But Van Dyke did a very good job of promoting it themselves, and a lot of people got on board. Our likes went through the roof. So we want to thank 7. No, we want to.
Problem is, we'll show up and talk about beer anywhere.
Yes,
we've been doing this long enough that's all right.
I think it was funny in the last 3 days, the barbecue podcast.
That was a good
up.
one. Well, that was a good one. That was a very enjoyable time. That was the food pairing and having Kevin there, who's not only very knowledgeable, but he's well spoken in terms of his knowledge. And I think that the people that are listening can glean information from him because he's very concise and says, well, this is why I picked this beer for this reason, and it's just so basic. People are like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I can, or you try that at home. I can taste that. Yeah, I could be saying, yeah.
You
talked about beer being a social experience before.
Yeah,
beer and food.
Yes, it absolutely is. And actually, this is one side subject, but I think that somebody could really make a go of doing a food and beer pairing
podcast.
Not on a podcast specifically, but on like a restaurant.
Yeah.
Or a smaller restaurant where you're.
When I was with Mass, each year we used to participate in an event called Savor in Washington, D.C. It's put on by the Brewers Association, and brewers would submit beers and a plan to attend this, and they'd pick what they thought were the best pairings. And we'd pair up with a chef, and they'd do a food pairing for our beer. And they were looking for phenomenal, exceptional beers. We did beers like lemon. We did lemon peel and ginger saison. We paired that with a soup. It was just, and like the whole room was full of breweries with bite-sized pieces, and it was just an amazing event. And it was a big fundraiser for the Brewers Association every year. But they got 100 breweries each year, and you'd eat like a king all weekend.
See, that's the thing I think that's really interesting. I think that should be done more often. Is I know a lot of people just simply want to whack down a bunch of beers, but with breweries becoming more prominent and the beers becoming better, I think better in terms of variety, quality, that something like an event or a series of events or just a regular restaurant can really do well.
Every city does their beer week, or does their restaurant week.
Who says like once a week?
Who says Schenectady can't do a beer pairing week where you can go to Frog Alley, 20 North, Hunters, 151, and every place has one of their meals paired with one of their beers.
I don't see
and
that.
It's just a special menu that you come in and say, all right, I'm going to choose one of these 3 different, like your steak sandwich, your wings, your burger with this beer, and then go over to tomorrow, go over to Jay's, and then go over to 151, or come here to Annabelle's and
sure.
Yeah,
I don't see what I mean. There's certainly, I think,
Let's do it. Sell
the
tickets.
customer base is there, and I think that the people, the people that want to do that, I think they're out there. I think a lot of people are. Before you just say, all right, I'm going to get a 12-pack of Bud and go home and whack down a 12-pack and eat a pizza.
Yeah.
I think people are spending more time, like, finding beers that they like, and I think that it would be a great addition to what people do is find beers that pair with them, that pair with find foods that pair with the beers they like. It can be, like, listen, I like this beer, rather than I like this food, I need to find a beer with it. I like this beer. What type of food goes well with that? You know what I mean? I think it could be educational for people, but also I think that there is a market, is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. I mean, people want to be informed.
Yeah.
Yep.
They don't want to be intimidated. They want to be informed.
That's what he was saying. Like,
They want an experience.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. An experience. Like the experience that we had over at Kevin's house it was a one of a kind of experience. Like, our listeners got a peek, a taste, a look into what we experienced. And I think that guys like you and guys like here and guys like in the local area can actually make that happen.
I just think it brings your drinking and eating to a different level. Where it's not as simple as just, hey, I brought a case of beer and some hot dogs.
Yeah.
I think that the market is right for something like that. Like I said, you can do it for a week, but maybe you do a series like once a month. It's at a different brewery. They're bringing out a certain beer, and we're going to pair it with a particular food. It could be anything.
We need a coordinator.
Yeah, maybe JT's got some extra time.
We did do a series of beer dinners.
He coordinated pretty well right here. Maybe we need that.
Maybe we reach out to our guy over at Tim Walton.
I don't think he's taken a day off since.
Oh my God!
I know.
Since March 15th.
Hardworking individual.
When we were closed down for COVID, I don't think he's taken a day off since.
He was a great guy, or not? He is a great guy. He was here before you popped on, and he was awesome.
All right,
let's say by example.
Yep. Well, what do you say we thank these guys for having me on? They probably got work to do.
Yeah.
Well, we'd like to thank you guys for coming down and including us.
No
excellent.
Problem. This was a great time, and I mean the facility is beautiful, and your guys' knowledge is excellent.
Hopefully now we could be able to get one of you guys to listen to a full podcast.
I'm in.
Well, he's got a longer drive than I do, so we have a better shot. We'll put it on Canada Day tomorrow.
And hopefully people will have heard this and be, learn a little bit more about Frog Alley and come on down and try out some of the beers.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is ultimately, I guess, what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's informing people, making people comfortable with the products that we produce, that you guys serve, and trying to make a better experience for everybody.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I do want to dedicate this podcast to my cousin Paula. Passed away too soon. All right, awesome. Guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
I appreciate it for having us.
Cheers.